What's going on, home team? It's your main man, the author. Right back at that ass again. Here's another one. Uh, what's going on, man? I just wanted to make this brief video. Uh, Wanted to expand on some of the thoughts and ideas that I've been reflecting as of late. But one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about, man, is of course most of my content is about black women, but it's the the immaturity or the lack of maturity in most black women. I see it time and time again, man. I asked this one black girl, I thought, because you couldn't tell by her stature how old she was. And I figured by the way she always talks about high school and dances around, I was figuring, and this was a girl at my job, I was figuring she was about 18 years old. Come to find out, she's 27. So I'm like, whoa. And I'm not saying that women in general, you know, don't act like kids or children, especially with the millennial generation, things of that sort. A lot of the millennials I find very annoying. Uh, Always think that they know it all, but then when you try to apply that practical knowledge into everyday life, they dumb as a box of doorknobs or nails. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But in addition to that, I mean, women in general, yes, it's a lack of maturity. But for the most part, man, black women pretty much fit the till, man. Very immature, very throw temper tantrums in many ways when they don't get what they want. Uh, Numerous videos throughout the year I've seen. One, for instance, this black woman at a Popeyes didn't get what she wanted or didn't get the satisfaction she wanted in the Popeyes, so she began tearing the Popeyes up, man. Tearing down the decorations, breaking the windows even. Uh, and seeing black women run their cars through the windshield because they were having a bad day. Um, all types of things like that, man. Even kill their children. Um, I can go on and on, man. But a lot of lack of maturity, a lack of integrity. Because being a woman, all females aren't women. What I mean by that is a lot of females or women tend to have a little girl's mindset, especially the ones who didn't have fathers. If you have sex with them, they'll call you daddy, daddy. I mean, you can get, but you can get almost any female to call you that if you're tapping it right. But my point is, it's just the lack of father figures. At first, it was just thought of as something that hurt young boys. But now we're starting to find out that these lack of father figures hurt females equally. I was reading a book about when I was a intern for the 1370 Connection show. I worked for this guy called Bob Smith. He was the host of the show, an AM radio show, and he had many guests on the show. And what he used to allow me to do is people would send him books from across the country and sometimes from across the world. I would read the books and pretty much let Bob know or give Bob ideas on who he should have his next show with or who he should speak with. Um, and sometimes the guests came in person. He interviewed our mayor at the time. This is back in 2003, Mayor Johnson. He interviewed Louise Slaughter. RIP. I met Louise Slaughter and the mayor while working for Bob Smith. Uh, and he also was a commentator for political races. Because he took me with him to one of the high schools in Brighton, and he had interviews with pretty much officials, people who were running for mayor, and the all the other public official seats, um, city councilmen and things of that nature. He also stood in and interviewed. He had a live radio broadcast for one political race. But I don't want to, get off on that tangent. But I mean, through meaning through working on his show, I read various books, and I gave authors of the books a call, spoke to a few people, and this one guy had sent this book in, and it says something about the importance of fathers. And I read through the book, and I was impressed. He was the author of the book. I gave him a call. I spoke with him, and I said, "Yeah, I enjoy reading your book. I looked over some of the statistics. I'm a little tongue-tied. I'm sorry. Looked over some of the statistics in the book, and he was talking about how 70% of the kids in prison don't have fathers, X, Y, Z, and the third. He even talked about how I think 50% or 70% of females who were in prison didn't have fathers. And I was speaking to him on that component because I used to always think that not having a father, up until that point, I was just thinking not having a father impacted the boys. And we talked about that. And he was like, what people don't understand is females not having, and he put this in his book as well. He said, females not having fathers is just as bad because girls don't know how to become women. So we spoke about that, man, and some of the guests Bob had were over the air too, just over the air. So I don't know if he put that individual on his show, but my point is, a lot of these black females who knew of their father but didn't have an active male role model in their lives tend to be very childish, just like a lot of young black boys growing up to become men these days. I mean, I repeat, man, the females who didn't have fathers, they grew up to be childish, just like these young black men. The only difference is the white power structure will give them jobs first to keep that destabilization going in our community because they don't want the black male to be the head of the household. And I'm not trying to blame something entirely on another race, but because I'm gonna make a video on that too. White supremacy does not mean all whites are supreme, but you do have to identify that there is a power structure in place. You can't be ignorant and say, well, I mean, with all the things with the corporations pouring, the carbons in the water, pouring poison in the water in Flint, Michigan, and the immunization shots and things like that. You can't, and then some of these world leaders have talked about population stabilization or trying to get the population smaller. You can't just ignore the obvious, especially if you're at a certain age. But now I'll make a follow-up video on that later on. But my point is, it's just that a lot of black women are very immature. They get overwhelmed by their emotions. It's hard for them to control their emotions. And they're used to getting things. Just like this one female I work with, black female, if someone wanted her to do something for them, she always demanded that they give her something in return, like food or something like that. Anytime someone went out to the store, she would ask them to bring back food, to bring back this, to bring back that. She always wanted something, but you rarely ever saw or see her giving something without asking for something back. It's that childish type thing. Whereas we all know that in real life, the way adults interact, there's a trade. We use the barter system, or there's a trade. With an adult mindset, I give you something to get something. With the childish mindset, I take, and give very little, if anything at all. An adult mindset, you expect to come to the table having something of value, presenting something of value, so you can retrieve something of value. Um, and a lot of black females don't have that. That's why on dates, a lot of females in general, but especially black females, I speak about them because they're a part of my race. Uh, Free dinners, they expect free this, free that, and they don't want to give anything in return. That's a childish mindset. That's what, and that for a baby, you can understand that. You give them milk, you change their diaper. You don't ask for anything in exchange because they can't give you anything in exchange. But you do that to nurture them. But black women never get out of that baby mindset. They always want to get something, receive something, even when they're 27, 28, 30, 40, 50, 60, sometimes up until the point of death. They never have that adult mindset, whereas I give something to retrieve something. I give something in value to receive something in value. I don't always, or a lot of times I'm a philanthropist. When you give, just to give, that's an adult mindset. But and not to say that every man out here is a good role model, but for the most part, it's better to have some type of role model, male role model in the home versus not having any male at all. And if your mother was to, and a lot of women are like that, but if your mother was the type to gimme, 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 like a lot of women are, then you can see how especially the female children are going to be the same way. And they're not going to want to work. They're not going to want to be productive. They're not going to want to be business owners. They're just going to want to be those types that pretty much take. Being 60, 70, 80 years old, never, ever quite getting out of that or escaping that mindset. And that's where a lot of these black women are headed, man, for many generations. And a race can't sustain itself or compete competitively with other races or other racial groups, the Asians, the Arabs, Middle Easterns. You can't compete successfully with other groups having that type of mentality. All those groups that are over us have group think, and more of them have that adult mindset. So basically, and you say, well, why does that matter? Well, having that mindset kind of retards your behavior. So of course you're not going to want to be a productive worker. You're not going to want to be a productive business owner. You're not going to want to have you're not going to want to have any power in your life. You're not going to want to have any power in your community. So it's a domino effect. Everything we do that energy transfers to something different. Energy just transfers itself. It's neither created nor destroyed. So basically, that's the point I wanted to touch on today. And like I said, you guys would be leaving comments all day long if I asked you to tell me about a black female that you've seen or that's your relative who doesn't quite act her age. The being extra loud so everybody can hear them as soon as they walk into a room. And they all give off the major factors of immaturity. Having to be seen at all times, wanting attention, whether it's positive or negative, never getting enough attention, just like a baby. Wah, 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 right? But sometimes babies, that's how they communicate because they can't talk. So because they have to let you know somehow that they need nourishment and to eat. But you get my point. Sometimes babies just cry just to cry, right? When, so always needing to be seen, always needing to be heard, um, always having to have someone approach them. They can never tell themselves that they're sexy enough times. All type of very childish things. All talking about they're fine no matter how they look, no matter how they, present themselves. Even with a weave that hasn't been washed in years, they'll still flaunt it around like they're beautiful. I mean, it's sickening. But, very childish behaviors, man. Very childish. And that childishness, of course, you take it into the relationships. And that's going to cause conflict because relationships are for adults, not for children. And if you never grew out of a child's mindset, then the probability of you having a successful relationship or marriage is quite low. The chances of you having one that's successful, even if you get two idiots together, sooner or later they annoy each other. But yeah, but be free to leave a comment. What do you think? How many and this is just for. I'm just talking about childish black women, which I think make up a large percentage of black women nowadays. I would say over half, man. Maybe even 65, 70, maybe even as high as 75% of black women are childish. And just like, and of course, there's an exception to every rule. Just like when I said, I can see how most black women, I can see how a man can kick a woman's ass. In my previous video, I can see how men could beat black women. Of course, I'm not talking about all black women. There are sisters out there who are loyal and who do what they're told. They embrace their femininity and they know how to keep a good home. But I think nowadays those sisters are in the minority. So I'm not going to spend all the time talking about those type of sisters when they are in a minority, and those sisters will tell you that if you talk with those sisters honestly, they will tell you that there's a lack of mature black women out here, right? They'll tell you that, man. And some of those sisters who aren't like that, if you were to look and see who they actually hang out with, a lot of them don't even hang out with other black chicks, man. Especially if they're say that one chocolate chick that grew up in the suburbs, they're the one chick that's with a bunch of white chicks, or the one black chick that's with Asians or Arabs. You know what I'm saying? They don't even really hang around with other black chicks. Now, I'm not saying, black chicks who are respectful don't hang together in groups, but not so much. A lot of times, though, some of those, you got some of those black females who are out of sororities who aren't as ratchet as the inner city females as far as being low down and dirty, but they do have a lot of hate inside of them, a lot of bitterness because they're not white or because they don't have the hair like the other races of women. And sometimes those women are hanging together, but some of those women are single as well. So when I say the women who aren't like that, the black women who aren't like that, typically those black women weren't even raised in the inner city at all. Now, you might have a handful at work, but I mean black women who were probably in their late 20s, early 30s and have no kids. All right. Women who have, 4-year degrees. All right. Might have waited till they were like 28 to have a kid, somewhere around there, 27, 28 to have their first kid, if they chose to have kids at all. Some of them played on the sports teams for their colleges. Um, Not just high school, but for their colleges. Now, I'm not saying you have to be, in order to be a good black female, you have to graduate college, but I'm just saying for the most part. Like I said, you may get a few handful. It's an exception to every rule, but people like to try to play the straw argument. Oh, yeah, well, I know of one black. That's a straw argument. That's not enough to even make up a percentage. What do you see for the majority? We're looking overall. See, a lot of people want to say, well, you can't judge. You got to look at people on an individual basis, and we don't work that way as a society. We don't work as individuals. People, a race of people like us, we're starting to do, who work as individuals, do not survive when it comes to uh, economic warfare, meaning competing against other races for minerals and for resources. One of the reasons why you'll see Arabs in our neighborhoods with stores. Now, I'm not saying that they don't get assistance when they come over here, but we're not even protesting that. You know, we're not even trying to stop that. And that's because we have a lot of individualism working in our inner city. You know, we're not working as a group. We're not operating using group think. Huh? That's what's going on, man. Because the black community should be outraged every time they see an Arab setting up shop in their neighborhood. And I know that the Arabs are getting help, but still, man, you should be outraged every time you see that. That's something to protest for. That's something that the Black Lives Matter people should be coming out for. But we all know that that's a white sponsored movement, because that movement is led by what? You know, lesbian women, lesbian black women who answer to lesbian white women. So that movement is not for the black community, you know. So of course I don't respect Black Lives Matter. It's a joke. It's a farce. It's idiocy. But yeah, man, black people should be outraged every time they see that, because none of us can go to an Arab community and set up a store and have people buy from us. You know that the only way we could be able to do that, we would have to put an Arab as the front person. And even still, you might have some smart Arabs who will do research to ensure that that money is circulating in their community. But that's the only way you could do it as a black man, is to have a Arab as a front. It had to be some real slick shit. But they're not even slick with it. They'll have an Arab set up in a community and have the Arabs in that motherfucker. You know? So, you know, and like I said, I know there's a hierarchy, but you never, you know, I know they're getting assistance, but you never stop fighting. But I just wanted to touch on that brief point, man. Video went a little longer than I expected. But make sure to like, subscribe. I appreciate the comments. Give me feedback on how to make the videos better. I do want to eventually get more advanced where I can start doing real research and show you guys articles and start showing you guys clips of some of the videos that I've been seeing, and start creating some type of dialogue and showing some commentary. But that's going to take a while for me to get up to speed to take it to that level. But I'm glad you guys are enjoying the content, and keep making comments. And this is your boy, the author, signing out.